Welcome to the Private Lenders Podcast with your hosts from Hard Money Bankers, Jason Balin and Chris Haddon. This podcast is sponsored by hardmoneymastermind.com.
Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the show. We appreciate it. Real quick before we get started here, the inner circle has filled up for the May event in all likelihood, and we have a number of people who are contacting us about being involved in that or something. So it looks like we're going to add an event. We're going to add an offline event here in Maryland in early June. To learn more, talk to Dave Bauer, our program director. Check out Hard Money Mastermind innercircle.com to make application and set a time to speak with him. Okay, today we're talking about some sales stuff. Not our normal scripting topic that we use a lot. We use a lot both in mastermind stuff and the online training and in podcasts, and of course with working with our team. This is about a different topic related to sales. And last week, our business partner, Ryan Walsh, was up here from North Carolina, and we were working with him on some of this very specific stuff, both the scripting and the strategy around how you manage your time. Because this is going to turn into an 80-20 kind of conversation, because 80-20 applies to like almost everything in life, right? In this case, it has to do with a company like ours. We're heavy on marketing, so we get a lot of leads. You're probably in a similar spot. A lot of private lenders just get leads all the time, right? And where you spend your time is going to have a lot to do with conversion rates, close rates, monthly revenue brought in, all of that stuff. So we're going to dive into it today.
Yeah, and I think most lenders, they probably get more leads or inquiries than they think, but a lot of them, us included, like to judge a book by its cover, which is the worst thing that you can possibly do. So let's identify real quick what a lead is. A lead can be, a repeat borrower calling you for another deal that they have. It could be someone filling out a website inquiry. Let's just go from like most qualified to least qualified. Somebody filling out a website, or somebody emailing you that just says, "What are your rates?" ? Right? They're all equally important. Well, maybe not equally important. Obviously, the repeat borrowers are the most important, but they're all a lead. And we're going to go through a graph here in a second that we created for a sales guy, some of our sales staff, of what to be concentrating on a regular basis. But the backup related to a lead, and step one is you need to get on the freaking phone with them. And I think a lot of lenders get more leads than they think. Maybe they just call them inquiries and not leads, but like they're the same thing, right? If somebody reaches out to you or you're in communication with somebody, step one is get on the phone. What you don't want to do is negotiate over email. What you don't want to do is give them rates over email or text, right? Because you're going to be probably the most expensive people in town. You're probably going to have the lowest leverage in town. We certainly do. And we're still able to convert at a decent rate because we get on the phone and we have scripting with them, so they can understand, where we're coming from, how our terms are set up, that we're local, we're quick, we've been around for a long time, we can close very quickly, low documentation, things like that. So that's step one, right? Is like understanding, like, getting on the phone with somebody and trying to convert them. And I think most people get more leads than they really think that they're getting. And I think they qualify leads of like, I don't really get many deals like that. And it's like, well, maybe you do, but maybe you just responded to the 10 people today via email of what your rates are, because that was the only question they thought to ask you, when really they just want to build a relationship with you and learn more. And if you had spent 5 minutes on a phone call with 10 of those people, one of them or two of them probably could have turned into something a little bit more. So should we go through this kill zone chart that we created, Chris?
Yeah, I do want to go through that. And kind of to preface where we're going to go with this is, it's very easy to get caught up spending your time on the less qualified stuff, on the inquiries coming in, the little apps, the whatever, the what are your rates, and spend the majority of your day on the less qualified stuff. And what this graphic is about is flipping that on its head and attempting to spend the majority of your time around the more likely closes, with the repeat borrowers, with the qualified people, with the biz dev activities around people who are qualified to borrow, right? Are we going to look at this graphic, or are we going to talk through it?
Let's just talk through it.
Yeah.
You know, it's not all that complicated, but in essence, like Chris said, you know, 80%. Let's talk about kind of the goal, the end in mind, and then we'll work backwards. So think about a chart and like the end goal of selling. Let's say the loan origination, if that's you or if that's an employee, like the end job is in essence for the borrower to get a term sheet signed. You get a term sheet signed from your borrower, and for them to pay some sort of valuation fee, inspection fee, or some dollar figure to you, so they know that they're committed. If they're not pulling out a credit card and paying you any money up front, they're not committed, I promise you, right? Just them signing a term sheet's not enough. They need to commit to you financially somehow, even if it's just a few $100s for an inspection fee for you to go out, look at the property, or to pay somebody, you know, to do a quick CMA for you. That's an important distinction. So in essence, when that happens and the valuation fee is paid, that in essence is the end goal. So if you work all the way backwards to, you know, the beginning of time, 80% of your time should be spent on the most qualified things in order to get that valuation fee paid, right? So right before that is, you know, quoting loans that are obviously, you know, under contract, and, you know, borrowers that have reached out to you, they have, and actually even before that, Chris, there's one step that's not even in here, but in essence, like term sheets that were outstanding that haven't paid their valuation fee. That's obviously top priority.
That's a top priority right there.
You're hawking them every day for 24 hours via phone call, email, text, driving to their freaking house to get them to sign that term sheet and valuation fee paid, whatever needs to be done. But so that's obviously top priority. And listen, if you're sending out a term sheet to somebody, and we've done lots of videos on scripting in the past, but if you're sending out a term sheet to somebody, they don't sign it in like a 24-hour period or so, like chances are that thing's not going to go anywhere. Like you need, like we're not preparing term sheets until people verbally agree to our terms and everything. And then after they verbally agree, it's like, okay, cool. I'm going to send out this term sheet. You told me you need to close quickly. You know, when do you think you can get this back to me? I got my inspector on standby. I can get him out there tomorrow morning type of situation. So you can create urgency. You want to add something to that before I?
Yeah, I was just going to add something like, if somebody verbally agrees to your terms, we're under the assumption that they're moving forward. And so after they verbally agree to the terms, you send them out the term sheet and the link to make the payment. If they're dragging their feet on doing that, that's top priority. Like, let's go. You already said yes. So like, that's when you got to be worried if they're shopping around for different terms, or if like what, you know, something like that going on that you don't want. If they verbally agree, like, let's go, you're signed up. And so that's how we approach it. And that's why we make that such a matter of importance.
Yeah, no doubt. So, okay. So before that, it's, you know, borrowers that, you know, you're working with that have properties under contract. If someone has a property that's under contract, that's a top priority to follow up with them on a regular basis to get that thing into term sheet stage. So, you know, you're on the phone, you're talking to somebody, they got the property under contract. Great. You can use that as, in essence, leverage and urgency of, great, when you need to close. Oh, I need to close tomorrow, or I need to close 3 weeks from now. Great. No problem. I can get that done. I can get that done for you. But I will have to move quick. And it's the same scripting either way. If they got to close in 3 days, they got to close in 3 weeks. They don't know what a rush is. A rush for a bank is longer than that, right? So like, whatever. So use that as leverage in order to be like, okay, cool. I can get that done for you, but we are going to have to move quick type of situation. So it's, you know, going through the sales script in order for them to get a term sheet signed. But like, those are top priority things. Like when you come in the morning and you've talked to somebody who has a property under contract that has to close, whatever, from now to a month from now, and you know they have it under contract, your goal is to figure out a way to get them to get a term sheet in their hands and signed. If you have to go meet them in person, whatever you have to do, like that's a high leverage task. I'm going through the 80% of your time spent first, and then we're going to back up to the 20% of the time. So another thing is, you know, working with past clients, right? Like a very high level use of time. And too many of us, me included, have not devoted enough energy to past clients than we might have during the startup phase of our business. During the startup phase in their business, and you're kind of desperate and you have, you know, extra time, and, you know, you're still trying to create relationships. You're going out to all your properties, you're looking at them and stuff like that. If you're not going out to your properties and you're in like year 0 to 3 or 5, like, go out to your properties. It's not just necessarily for underwriting purposes. It's also for sales and marketing and relationship purposes. Do your property inspections, go out to the properties, like, understand what's going on in the transaction, meet people. It's very, very easy to continue to get repeat borrowers when you're in front of your borrower multiple times throughout the deal. So anything related to past client work, very high level, a good use of time. Anything else on past clients you want to discuss?
No, I think you covered it.
Okay. So, like, the step before that, right? Like, let's say you've got free time before that, it's going through, deals that maybe a borrower has not completely under contract yet, but they came to you for terms and they're looking like they're looking to put a property under contract, or you gave them a pre-approval or something like that. It's worth spending time on following up with them. So we use, there's obviously softwares and CRMs you can use. We keep it simple. We just use a Google Sheet. And in essence, it's like name information, contact information, purchase price, construction costs, RARV, stuff like that. And we go through it every day. It's like, this is our kill sheet, right? Every day.
Yep.
This is our sales sheet. They're like, okay, who did I talk to in the last few days that I gave information to, and they said they were going to try to get a property under contract this weekend, right? We're recording this on it. And whoever reached out to us over the last few days, I'm going to go back to and be like, hey, did you get that property under contract? You didn't. Okay. What's your next plan? Are you going to put another property under contract? What's that address? Do you need pre-approval for that? Or like, whatever that case is. Like, you've had a conversation with them. It's fresh in your mind. Stay in front of them. It's easy. It doesn't take a lot of time, and do that regularly. Obviously before that, it's kind of any lead, any good lead. And again, this is 20% of your day is doing this. 80% of your day was, getting your term sheets to the table, quoting deals that were under contract, and past client work. That's 80% of the day. So now we're in the 20% time spent. Obviously, it's, any good new lead, any borrower that potentially you talk to, and they can turn into anything. And when I say good lead is, they seem like they're a good human. Maybe they have experience, maybe they don't. They definitely have cash that they can bring into the deal. And they're definitely serious about kind of moving forward, using you and real estate investing. Figure out a way that you can do something with them. Set up for coffee, go to a property that they currently have that they're renovating, take a look at it. Figure out a way to kind of create that relationship, knowing that, on their next transaction, you'll be the first one for them to call. So that's still part of the day. And then, there's always going to be that part of the day where you're spending, and we kind of started with this, where new leads or inquiries are coming in on a regular basis. And your goal obviously is, and again, this is on the sales side. This isn't business owner side. This is on the sales side. If you're a one-man operation, you're doing all of these things. So obviously a big part of your day should be marketing to bring in business. But on the sales side, the inquiries and the leads that you're getting those days that you think might be a little bit cumbersome, again, like we started with, don't just email them back. Pick up the phone, talk to them, build a relationship. 80% of them probably won't go anywhere anyways. That's okay. But you don't know who those are, because the first time you judge a book by its cover, you're probably going to be wrong. That's what happens all the time. So get on the phone, build a relationship, and work them down that kind of sales funnel ladder.
And use scripting to get efficient at it, right? So that you can ask them the right questions. Again, like, we're not going to cover that in depth on this one. That's its own topic entirely. But learn the scripting so that you can ask them a few questions and immediately have a good feel of what's going on with this transaction, with this borrower, and if they're going to be a good fit to lend to or not, right? And then you got to work through those, because again, that's the trap. These little inquiries, these what are your rates, like, that's the sales trap. That's a real time suck. And being disciplined about spending your 80% near the kill zone on the other end, on the already quoted deals, on the repeat clients, on the biz dev stuff, and only 20% on the, here's a loan app, what's your rate, I called you, stuff like that can be that time suck. And I think that if...
Go ahead, and I'll add to that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge. Like, it's an ongoing thing to continue to develop and work on and be aware of, right? Where your time's going, how did I work so many hours and talk to so many people, and I only have a couple deals in the pipeline, right? Like that's what we're trying to avoid. And that's what this whole thing's about.
Yeah, and you're focusing on those right people, but those ones that you're only spending 20% of the time on, maybe it's an inquiry. Like, okay, well maybe it ended up being a good inquiry, and now I'm spending more time on that person, right? You're only doing your typically you should be able to have a phone call for 2 minutes for somebody who's not qualified that probably won't go anywhere, to 5 minutes of somebody who is qualified. Because keep in mind, most of these folks, they don't want to get their ear. They don't want to talk forever anyways. So, it's one of those things that you're on the phone with them and you're going through good, important stuff. And then you're moving to the next step, and they're either qualified or they're not qualified. And if they're qualified, hey, they're better. And, when we had this system originally set up for one of our loan officers, we bought him this, and I'm going to ring it here. And if you're watching on video, you'll see it. If you're on audio, you can hear it. But the goal was that we wanted to hear that his office, if you saw the Instagram post that we did recently, his office was the front office, ours was in the back. And the goal was for us to hear that once a day. And if we heard that once a day,
that's when somebody paid a valuation fee. That's his close. And he would ring that bell and we would all cheer, right?
Yep.
It was awesome. That was fun.
Yeah, exactly. And the goal for him was to do one of those a day, which is a lot, right? That's 20 plus deals a month just from him. But what the goal we had with him was like, you got to get really what we try to do internally is we try to have one term sheet sent out a day, which in essence will end up being like 3 closed loans a week, which is good. That's in essence the goal, because most term sheets that go out should close, right? Or they should commit to, because you've already verbally gone over everything. You've gone through the whole sales funnel, the whole sales script. Everything's kind of set up. There's not really many reasons for them not to proceed in that case. So his close was get that valuation fee, bang on that thing, and let's keep it moving. Move on to the next one.
Yep. All right, guys, that is the pod for today. I hope you're able to apply this immediately to your own lending business. We'll see you here next time on the podcast. And in the meantime, we'll see you inside hardmoneymastermind.com.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Private Lenders Podcast. Please note that the opinions stated by all the speakers on this show are only opinions and not intended for legal, financial, or accounting advice. Please make sure to always check with your own legal, accounting, and financial professionals. If you enjoyed this episode of the Private Lenders Podcast, we'd appreciate it if you would spread the word. Make sure to check out hardmoneymastermind.com, the #1 free community for new and experienced private and hard money lenders.